The Nerdcast Empire is on the air. We are back with another week of podcasting excellence here on the Nerdcast Empire. I am Matt in the studio. Great to have you along with us. We are back for the music of October the 24th this week. And it was a heavy week in music. We've got a couple of heavy weeks in music coming up here on the podcast, as it definitely looks like everybody is rushing to get their albums out before the end of October. So a lot of good stuff this week. We're going to be bringing it to you on the podcast. Of course, we'll have news headlines, including something I would probably term a philosophical debate that we can get into a little bit during the second news item we're going to talk about. Of course, we'll have classic albums in the vault, and of course, our question of the week in the Power Trio. Joining me in studio, as always, is Mike. Mike, how's it going?
It's going. A lot of music between this week and what will be next week. A lot to go through. The good news is that when there is that much music, there's also ultimately a lot of really good music. So definitely had some good listening this week, even if it was a lot.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of good stuff. And of course, as I always say each and every week, make sure that when I post the playlist in the channel that you go check it out, because Mike puts a lot of work into putting that playlist together each week. And you'll be able to see that there is a lot of really good stuff. And a lot of it is stuff that we like, but I would presume if you're a fan of other types of music, there was also a lot of that stuff out there too. So I, of course, have pinned the link to our Discord in each of the chats. Please join our Discord. We talk about our schedule in there. We take solicitations for question of the week, all kinds of good stuff. So make sure you check us out on Discord to follow along with the Nerdcast Empire. And again, I'll be posting the playlist a little bit later on, as well. Was a really good week in music. We'll get to that in our second segment. But of course, we start things off with news headlines each week. And, I think the question we have pondered as we have talked about this news story, we still really don't have a definitive answer, but I think this story and headline will give you an idea of kind of what we're looking at. Blabbermouth ran a story based on a new interview in UK's Kerrang! Magazine with Dave Mustaine. Of course, they are starting, and Megadeth is starting their farewell tour coming up in 2026. And Dave says in the interview, we easily could be talking about touring for another 3 to 5 years. He turned 70 in 2031, so, will he be able to stretch out that farewell tour? Again, some bands never actually follow through with a farewell tour anyway. It's farewell, they just keep going. Some do, and we have had some that have just been like, nope, no more. I mean, even Rush is going back out on tour after it looked like they were definitely never going to tour again. So, on the one hand, it would be hard to blame somebody for, wanting to stretch out that thing when there's a finality or could be a finality on the other side of it. And on the other hand, it's the music industry. It's kind of like professional wrestling. Goodbye is never really goodbye. It's just, see you later. But again, not a huge surprise. This is going to, and I'm sure, as you'll mention, because Megadeth obviously popular around the world, it's going to take at least a year or two to get to all the places they want to get to, even if they only hit them once.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they first announced the farewell tour a month or so ago, they kind of alluded to the idea that it wasn't just going to be like one thing and we're done. Like, it was going to last a while. So to hear him say 3 to 5 years, not really surprising. He does mention in the article that, being someone who's overcome addiction in his life, he beat throat cancer. He doesn't see himself being one of those guys playing into his 80s. So when he sees 2031, I'm turning 70, I think for him, it's probably a lot of like, how long will I feel good doing this leading up to 70? And maybe that might dictate how long this lasts.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. And I think as he gets out on tour, he may not even be sure himself what he's going to feel like after a year or two of doing this nonstop. Because if this is their last album, which it appears to be, there's not going to be a need to, we got to come off this tour and get back in the studio and record another album. So you basically can just tour it to death. So it does become a case where it's just like, okay, we're going to keep touring as long as people keep buying tickets, as long as people keep showing up. We're going to keep doing this as long as we feel healthy enough to do it. And, more power to them. I think that's a good thing as long as the performances are still good. And I've yet to see a bad Megadeth performance. Yeah. It's always a good time, regardless of who's in the band. And I think, The one thing I think as someone who's, a fan but maybe not a super fan of the group, the one thing I would love to see over the next 3 to 5 years is if there are any other members who have had a falling out with Dave, if they could somehow, even if it's just for a handful of shows,
Yeah.
work their way into some guest spots, just to kind of tie it all together, and really just not even for the fans, just for their own personal well-being, just to have no hard feelings and everybody just kind of bring this thing to a close in a positive way. Now, whether that happens or not, I have no idea.
Yeah, you feel a lot of that is on Dave at this point, and I think there are people that he has played with in the past that he has varying levels of respect for.
Yeah.
I think seeing him play with Marty several times over the past couple of years kind of shows you how he feels about him. I don't foresee the bridges mending between he and Ellefson at this point.
Probably
That
not.
seems pretty far away. And then you look at the people who have been touring with Ellefson, kind of doing their Kings of Thrash thing, where you have like Jeff Young. I think Chris Poland has done some stuff with them too. It's like it's a little less likely you're going to see them collaborate with Dave before it's all said and done, but it is what it is, and it's crazy over the years just the caliber of musician that he's been able to recruit into the band. I mean, people like the Drovers were really good. Chris Broderick was an amazing guitarist. Any number. I mean, there has been no shortage of great guitarists in the band.
And why not? I mean, the chance to play with Dave, the chance to say you remember a Megadeth is a pull that's a little bit too strong, especially for guys that maybe this will have been and maybe has continued to be the biggest thing they've ever done in their career. So, yeah, it's been a revolving lineup over the years. I think I would be shocked if Marty Friedman doesn't drop back in for a few shows, especially when and if they go to Japan. I'm sure they will probably do a few dates in Japan on the final tour, and I would imagine Marty will be there. But again, just pound for pound, the amount of talent that can say they were a member of Megadeth, there aren't too many bands in the history of music that can really compare to that.
Kiko being another guitarist.
Yeah, Kiko Loureiro.
Phenomenal, great work with Angra as well. It's kind of funny reading further into the article. They talk about his decision to record a version of Metallica's "Ride the Lightning." I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
how he talked about it. It's closing a circle and showing respect where it all started. And you feel like with Dave, and anytime he does something that's relating to work he did in Metallica, there's always that weird like, I have to do it faster and harder, almost like a weird shot at Kirk Hammett to some degree.
Yeah.
And he had the quote a while back talking about how it must have been tough for Kirk to have to play his stuff when he joined Metallica, and he did the best he could. And it's so funny. And he mentions when talking about Ride the Lightning that, when you do a song like that, it's got to be at least as good as the original, if not a little better. And he points out how his version of it is going to be a little faster, which not surprising considering you compare something like Mechanics to the Four Horsemen. Mechanics is certainly faster. I'm anxious to hear it just because it's a great song, first off.
Sure.
But I'm curious to hear what kind of weird, because I'm sure the solos are going to be more ridiculous by intent, just to say, hey, here's what I would have done if I got to play the solos here. I'm sure it's going to be great, but I'm excited to hear it.
Honestly, there's probably a better chance of Ellefson reuniting with Mustaine than it is for Mustaine to get over getting let go out of Metallica. Like, I think that, and you know what? Like, we talk about it all the time with pro athletes playing with a chip on their shoulder. It's that whole thing where it's like, well, they just, their whole career, they were picked in the third round or they were cut by their, first team. So, like, you see it in sports all the time. So, why shouldn't it be a thing in music as well? And it feels like Dave made a whole career out of playing with that chip on his shoulder. And again, has had tremendous success because of it. So who am I to say it's wrong?
Yeah, I think it all worked out for the best. And honestly, even if it hadn't happened then, I just don't think when you hear some of the stories about how James kind of treated band members and how he kind of lorded over Metallica, I don't think those two would have been able to work together long term. Substance abuse issues or not, to be honest.
Yeah, I think in the end it worked out best for everybody involved. Both bands thrived because of it, and I think it was good for music in total because maybe some of the music that got created would have never gotten created had they not had that split. So, but yeah, so if you are looking to catch Megadeth on the farewell tour, you got some time. So
new album comes out January 23rd.
Yeah, I'm sure we will talk about that on the podcast for sure, and that'll be coming up after the first of the year. So make sure you check that out. The second story I chose just because it was so fascinating to me, and we don't talk a ton about AI on this podcast, and certainly very rarely in any kind of positive uh, frame. And this was just an interesting one. Pete Townsend from the Who talking about being interested in using AI to complete his unfinished song ideas, and in the interview he talks about it was on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and he talked about how he's got hundreds and hundreds of songs that are parts of songs, unfinished songs, and he talked about using generative AI to finish some of those, and even went farther than that. And I'll let you talk about that. But to me, that was just mind blowing to think that somebody who has created all this amazing music and has been an inspiration for so many rock and metal bands that have followed them would kind of sell out to artificial intelligence, for lack of a better way of saying it. The whole story was just totally bizarre to me.
I think it really brings to light kind of the weird mixed emotions that just any random person could have about AI. Because in one stance, you think like that's pretty forward thinking. Like this guy's trying to get out ahead of this, and here's how I want to try to implement this into my workflow. And I mean, companies do it all the time, integrating AI into what they do. People tend to more turn their noses up to it when they're talking about creative endeavors, making music, movies, whatever. But it's interesting for that reason. But it at the same time does feel kind of weirdly like tone deaf too, and just kind of his takes on it. In March 2025, he made a statement to the Times saying, "If I told AI write a load of Pete Townsend songs like he used to write in 1973, a lot of Who fans would be really pleased." And that's a weird take.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, first off, what is AI pulling from? I mean, is it only pulling from what it thinks Pete Townsend would do in 1973, or are there similar artists of that era that it would be kind of pilfering from as well to come up with what the ultimate product's going to be? It's it's interesting. And then a couple years before that, in November 2023, he told the Broken Record podcast, I think it'll help in all kinds of ways that'll surprise us when they happen, just like the internet has. And of course, the internet has very, very dark side, but with respect to AI, I'm hopeful. But I'm not going to say it's inevitably going to be a good thing, because I think when it becomes what drives the machine, then we have to be careful.
On the one hand, he sounds, when you hear quotes like that, he's clearly a dude that is trying to think out, find a positive, try to be philosophical almost about the rise in technology. And, for a guy of his age, he has seen just multiple lifetimes worth of technology appear. And maybe that gives him a different perspective in some way, that,
Probably.
He's seen, cell phones and internet and AI and all these different things that have come about in the last 30 years or so that have really taken over our lives. I mean, even what we're doing right here, sending this podcast out to the world, not even possible to this degree 10 or 15 years ago. It is interesting to hear somebody from that previous generation, or even 2 generations ago now, I guess, be so open about it and willing to explore it. And you brought up a great point on our Discord, plug for join our Discord, is, what, obviously this is somebody who's clearly in favor of it. So, I mean, this stuff could appear before his lifetime ends. But what happens when a lot of these current artists pass away? When, obviously estates would have some say in that, but estates rights for records, they get sold all the time. We've talked about several cases. When does somebody who now holds the rights to Michael Jackson's catalog decide, well, it's time for some new Michael Jackson music. Let's churn out some new albums. 80s music is back.
Is it like Winnie the Pooh, where it eventually becomes public domain and you end up with a bad horror movie made after it? At what point can I say, I want to write some music, but I want to collaborate with Beethoven? Let me get AI to do that with me.
Great question.
Where do you draw the line between that's okay, but if you were to do the same thing and I want to write an album with Tupac, that maybe that's not as, smiled upon. I don't know where the line is.
And I'm not sure the line exist right now. I think that is obviously one of the biggest issues with AI is that some places it's regulated heavily and other places it's not regulated at all, and it becomes this free for all. And I obviously do a lot of work with the banking industry and the mortgage industry. It's a big topic there. At some point, are you going to be able to get a mortgage with AI where you don't even have to talk to a person? Right now you can't do that because people are the only ones that can quote rates. You have to be licensed to do that.
Yeah.
But at what point does that change? I've been to many events over the last month or two where regulators were telling people, look, it's coming. You'd better be ready for it because at some point the government's going to get on board with it and they're going to approve it. So, I mean, it's the rules change almost daily and opinions change on a lot. And, it kind of ties into a couple of kind of parallel stories. I know I had not heard about this. I know you had heard about this off of a Rick Beato video that there was a song that reached #1 on the country charts that was completely AI generated, and then there was this poll, the survey that I'm posting in the chat, talking about 97% of people could not tell the difference between a fully AI generated music and human made music in a blind test with 2 AI songs and 1 real song. I find that hard to believe just because maybe AI audio is different than video, but at least from a video standpoint, it's still very noticeable. I mean, just take the Coca-Cola Christmas commercial where the truck had like 12 different axle configurations during the entire video. Like, that's a hard to believe. But again, it's just a couple of cases here where it's here and it's now, and it's kind of scary. And I don't know how to feel about it other than I'm not sure it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's tough because both kind of the highest profile examples of AI generated music that have gotten some buzz have been kinds of music I don't like. So I don't know if it's me saying, oh, I can tell that's AI because it's awful, but that's because I don't like the music to begin with. If it was like a power metal band that was pure AI, would I be able to tell the difference? I don't know. About that Breaking Rust or whatever it is, the country artist.
Yeah.
The way Rick Beato put it is they basically were only on top of like the country music like digital sales chart. So he assumes that whoever created the song just bought it up to the point where it topped the chart. It's not on any of the meaningful ones, the ones that like Morgan Wallen's all over the place on as far as like actual streams or sales.
Yeah.
Like
album sales.
Yeah. So, but again, it's a step in the wrong direction either way.
It got it in the news, which now has gotten us talking about it and other people talking about it. So that's where it's just this really bizarre situation that I again don't know how to really feel about it. I don't feel great about it, but I think it's something we're going to be talking about more, and I think it's only a matter of time before some of those songs, assuming they haven't already and we just didn't realize it, start showing up on your playlist every week.
Yeah, I'm scared to think about that, and that's why it's always nice, and that's one of the areas you can still tell a difference is that typically with these AI acts, whatever kind of like multimedia that goes along with their profile, it's clearly AI. Like it's not a picture of a real person, and you still kind of have that, but still, I mean, it's scary.
And I will say, like, I know some bands have listened to our podcast, especially when we have promoted their albums that are coming out. And the one thing I would tell them is if you're anti AI, or at the very least AI agnostic, if that's a term, be very mindful of using AI in your artwork, using AI in your music videos, because to me, when we go through and we look at these playlists every week, when I see AI in a music video, that song had better be really good for me to overcome that, because immediately I wonder, well, if they're willing to use AI that's clearly crappy enough that I can tell it's AI in their video, how do I know that this song is actually the people singing it or them playing the music? Like, it does throw that doubt in your mind.
Yeah, and I think also I look even harsher upon it if it's an established act that you assume has had numerous album sales over the years. Like, why are they resorting to using AI for their video? If it's some just one-person project that maybe has released just one album out of their bedroom, it's like, yeah, I get it. They're probably not necessarily in that position to commission an artist to do all this for them. So it's different, but yeah, it still plants that seed of like, is it real or Memorex?
Yeah. So interesting stuff. It's a topic we'll talk about from time to time, but it is definitely something that will continue to come up and something we'll keep an eye on. So just a reminder, check out our website, nerdcastempire.com. Of course, you can check out past episodes of the Nerdcast Empire on YouTube at youtube.com/at Nerdcast Empire, and of course, twitch.tv/Nerdcast Empire. We're live. Our VOD stay up, I think, about a month over there on Twitch. Also, a good reminder, we are monetized on Twitch. Probably a good time to mention it because we're about to have a commercial break on Twitch. So if you are watching us on Twitch, you can make the commercials go away by subscribing to the channel. You can do that for free with a Prime subscription every month. You just have to renew it every month, and the ads will go away. Otherwise, when we take our 90-second ad break, we won't continue on with the show. We'll chat a little bit, but we will hold up, and then we'll come back. So you won't miss a thing if you do sit through the ads. We appreciate it. We make a few pennies off of it. It allows us to reinvest in the podcast, and we very much appreciate it. So we'll go ahead and take that ad break now, and then the rest of you will get ready to talk a little bit about the playlist that we're about to post in the chat. So we'll be back in about 90 seconds if you are watching us on Twitch. So stay tuned. So we are headed to an ad break here very shortly on Twitch, and we will be back in about 90 seconds there. You know, you mentioned the heavy playlist this week. A lot of bands on the playlist this week. A lot for next week. How many did you say we're looking at potentially for next week already?
I think right now it's at 133, assuming I can find all of them to add to the playlist.
Yeah, so, I mean, easily, there's pretty good chance it's going to be over 100 again next week. So that is a lot of music. So we definitely encourage you to check out, not only checking out Mike's playlist when I post it in the chat here in a few minutes, but obviously you can go to his profile. He's got playlists from pretty much every week that we have done this since we started doing this. This is episode 91 of the Hard Rock Empire. He's also got a lot of really good stuff on the anime side. If you're looking for some best of lists of seasonal and yearly anime opening themes, definitely worth checking out there. Eventually, we'd like to get back to doing some anime podcasts to kind of spotlight that as well. But yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff on your channel. Hopefully, people will check that out because you put a lot of work into just like compiling, let alone the anime stuff.
I need to upload some stuff sometime soon. I got some things finished. I just haven't put them on the channel yet.
So look forward to that. Yeah, go subscribe to Mike's YouTube channel. And, of course, not only will you get to see all the anime stuff, but you'll see when his new playlists come up. You can get a notification when a new playlist pops up, and you can check out the music before everybody else does. So make sure you do that, checking out Mike's YouTube page. And as our ad in progress runs out, we are back on Twitch. Thank you so much for sticking around. It is time to get to our new music of the week. We are done talking about AI music, at least for the time being. So let's get to some real, honest-to-goodness music. And I will be posting the playlist in the chat in a moment. Each week, Mike will go through and he will compile all of the new rock and metal albums that are coming out for a given date. That given date in question this week is October the 24th. And then once he does that, we go through there and we will check out all the songs. And we will, once we do that, we will pick 2 new albums to spotlight on the podcast. But this was a week where there were a lot of albums. There were some compilation albums. There were some big artists that released music this week. There was more Japanese music on our list this week than we've probably ever had. But before we get to the stuff we picked this week, Mike, what are some of the other things kind of to spotlight on this week's playlist?
Yeah, you know, I hope that's a trend as far as Japanese bands appearing on the playlist. Yeah. I've been wanting to find some sort of resource to pull from for them, but they apparently popped up on my normal websites this week, so sweet. As far as new stuff this week from some of the bigger acts, we have the newest one from Cold Rain, Optimize EP, great Japanese metal band. Tremendous anime opening for the Anime Rainbow, one of my favorite opens of all time.
And noteworthy, if you're looking to get into some Japanese metal and rock bands, that's a good one to start with. All their songs are in English. Yeah. So the lead singer is fluent in both English and Japanese. So if you're looking for a way in the door, Cold Rain's a great choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Legendary metal singer from Germany, Doro Pesch, has her new album out, Warriors of the Sea. She's been around forever. Definitely classic stuff there. Wolfgang von Halen, his band Mammoth, released their new album, The End. Obviously, Eddie Van Halen's son. Track on the playlist was really good. The video was ridiculous.
It was. It was really well put together.
Yeah, the weird like Michael Jackson quote attributed to himself, like Michael Scott did. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, Ronnie Romero singer known for his time in Rainbow, MSG, Sunstorm. He's been talked about numerous times on the podcast. His newest album, Backbone, came out.
Solid album, once again from Ronnie Romero.
Then as far as compilations and re-releases go, we do have the second volume of the 20 Years of Five Finger Death Punch that was released. Apparently these are like re-recorded versions of some of their songs over the years. If you're a fan of theirs, that's probably kind of cool. Serge Tankian released covers, collaborations, and collages. Vocalist from System of a Down. I'm sure that's pretty interesting stuff. I didn't see any like covers that jumped out at me on it, but still probably pretty cool. We got a re-release, 30th anniversary. Is that right? Yeah. Of Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Yeah.
They released like a 4 LP, like super box of that. I still need to go back and listen to the whole thing because like I mentioned before, I like the hits, but only a few other tracks beyond that really resonated with me back in the mid-90s. But still, Billy Corgan, wrestling promoter, also hard rock singer in his free time. Good stuff there. We had a compilation, Can't Get Enough, Tribute to Bad Company, came out this week.
Okay.
I only heard one track. It was the one I pulled for the playlist, but it was good. Bad Company's got good songs, worth checking out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And finally, there was a re-release that kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't really familiar with it at the time, from a band called Wrathchild America. They were a thrash band in the 80s. They're re-releasing Climbing the Walls. Interesting thing about that album and that band is that former member of Godsmack was in that band. And I always kind of thought Godsmack had been around a while, but this dude, Shannon Larkin, he had been in Wrathchild America since like 1978. Also played on the Vanilla Ice new metal album that he came out with in the late 90s. That's kind of a crazy one too. But yeah, that's about it for this week.
Yeah, again, a lot. And if you're looking for some new music, this week's playlist, I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of really good stuff on there, so worth checking out if you're looking for something new. But of course, we have pulled 2 new albums each to put in front of you for this podcast. So without further ado, it is time to get to Mike's picks. He will kick us off as always. So what do you have for pick number 1 this week?
Yeah, so I kind of accidentally picked 2 concept albums. Wasn't really by design, but that's how this turned out. The first of which is the 5th studio album from a German-American metal band. They are Them, and the album is Psychedelic Enigma.
Does Them tour with him?
That'd be really confusing, but a good show, I'm sure.
For sure.
This is a band that formed in 2008 by Troy Knorr as a King Diamond tribute band. And honestly, my first interaction with them when I pulled them for the playlist was, man, this looks like they should be some sort of King Diamond tribute band. First off, the stylization of their logo, Them, that's a giveaway to some degree. But anyway, the band started back in 2008 as a King Diamond tribute band. They did that for a few years, took some time off, then reconvened in 2014 with an original story, concept, and band. And now here we are with this brand new invention, inspired by King Diamond, but now kind of its own universe as Them. The band consists of Troy Knorr as KK Fosser on vocals, Alexander Palma on bass, David Deliniers on drums, Richie Seibel on keyboards, Marcus Ulrich on guitars, and Marcus Johansson on guitars as well. The track I pulled for the playlist was the first real song on the album, Catatonia. They show you the logo first, followed by a photo of the band. And when you see the front man looking like he could be the cousin of King Diamond, between that and the logo, it's like, okay, bar's getting higher, guys. You better nail this. And it didn't disappoint. Again, this is a concept album, which I love, but the first track on the album starts out being set in a hospital, very much Operation Mindcrime-ish. That was my first thought was, man, if you're going to do a concept album, this is the best way to do it. Start it with, like, someone speaking over a PA at a hospital. Like, that's rule number 1. That track felt like they mixed, I remember now, from Operation Mindcrime and Anarchy X, the first 2 tracks, into, like, one. Here's our voiceover. Here's our instrumental intro. Really cool stuff. The music's pretty thrashy at times, but Knorr's vocals really aren't your typical thrash metal vocals. There are times where you can kind of hear the King Diamond influence in his voice, but he doesn't sound like he's trying to be King Diamond. Like, he has his own style, which is important because you don't really... It's not going to work if you're just doing King Diamond. we talk about things that bands can do to kind of differentiate themselves, especially when you start talking about kind of the thrash or even traditional metal scenes, because there's so many bands that who knew were doing it this whole time. And while it's cool when some of them feel like just a straight throwback, you also kind of like when they set themselves apart, and that's clearly what these guys are doing with their own universe. And this being, I think, 3 albums into a story that they've been telling. Standout tracks on the album include An Evil Deed, Remember to Die, Silent Room, Psychonautic State, Electric Church, Echoes of the Forgotten Realm, Troubled Minds, and the track that I picked to listen to, Catatonia.
Listen to these guys now. This is them with Psychedelic Enigma. This is the second track off of that album, Catatonia. Let's listen to a little bit of that now. Yeah, you hear the musical influences of King Diamond, but you definitely don't hear as strong a vocal influence as you would expect from a band that has that influence. And I think, like you said, I think that is perfect in this case, because otherwise you're always going to sound like a King Diamond tribute band if your singer tries to sound like King Diamond all the time. But overall, like, it's really strong. The music is really, really good. Vocals are powerful and in a way that is, it's not melodic, but it's not crunchy either.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, he's got a really good tone to it that works perfectly with the music overall. That they've put together a really great sound.
Yeah, I think knowing the history that he was at a time a King Diamond tribute singer, you can hear his voice and say, I'll bet he could do a good King Diamond, even if he's not currently doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was the right choice if they want to have their own thing, and I think it's
unique. You don't hear a lot that sounds just like that.
No, and I love that when we find something new on the podcast. Some weeks I think I kind of crave that, and I think we're going to get to that when we get to my 2 picks this week. But definitely check out them. Really good stuff from them. Literally, that is Mike's first pick for this week. As always, Mike has 2 picks each and every week. What do you have for pick number 2?
Yeah, so kind of keeping up the trend of unique things. This is another concept album, like I mentioned. It is the 3rd installment of the Romantique releases from an Austrian and Hungarian duo. They released the first one as an EP in 2022, the second in 2023, and then a compilation last year of 1 and 2. They are Bergfried, and this album is Romantique 3.
Yeah, again, another group sounds a different sound, but has really found a way to stand out, honestly, in all this music that we have.
Yeah, this one, from the first kind of riff on the playlist track, I was like, okay, I'm interested. You got my attention. What are we gonna do now? This project is made up from Eric von Lothringen on all instruments and Anna de Savoy on vocals. Checking out the review on the New Wave of Traditional Heavy Metal website, they point out that von Lothringen's roots are in black metal, but he has a wide range of influences, including thrash, heavy metal, and classic hard rock. They also mentioned that Bergfried's sound has evolved into something more melodic and theatrical than how it began. So kind of curious what the first 2 installments sounded like. You can definitely hear the classic rock influences. It feels like traditional heavy metal, but at times also like 80s hard rock. Like, if Pat Benatar or Bonnie Tyler had a metal band, this is kind of how you feel like it would turn out, which is not a bad thing. I think I'm all for 80s rock infused with metal, and I think that's kind of what they had going on here. They've managed to create something different than kind of like with the first band. Like, it's familiar but different.
Yeah.
I think I'm all interested in more of that. Some of it comes off really poppy, some really theatric, some heavy. It's an interesting thing, and it's cool for a concept album to kind of vary it, so it doesn't feel like just one long track telling a story. Standout tracks on the album include Fallen from Grace, Queen of the Dead, Serenades, Tears of a Thousand Years, Back for More, and the track that I picked to listen to, Dark Wings.
Let's check out Mike's second pick, Bergfried, with their new album, Romantique 3. This is the first of the track off the debut, the initial track, that's the word I'm looking for, off this album, Dark Wings. Let's listen to a little bit of that now.
Is there anything that I can do? Just a magic word that I can say. Is there anything left of me to give away? Oh no, dark wings are right. Carry your name in my heart, and I'll set this world on fire. Just to hear you calling my name.
Yeah, there's definitely an 80s vibe to that for sure. Like, and we get a lot of bands over the weeks that have that 80s sound to it, but these guys have found a way to do it a little bit differently than some of those other ones. You still kind of have that metal undertone there to kind of go with it's almost pop metal to some degree, but in a different way. Like, your description of, Bonnie Tyler metal is actually pretty much right on the money here.
And it makes you realize you've wanted that kind of music forever, and someone's finally out there doing it. There was another track, and I mentioned it on the standouts, that I was going to include for the podcast, but there wasn't like an obvious hook point to say, hey, here's where we want to start playing it. The song Serenades is it's a really awesome song. I just couldn't condense it to like hey, play this 30-second clip of it, but it's just, that's how this album is. Like, it's all over the place, but just all really good.
I feel like there are times and this is not the case with this band, but there are a lot of times with progressive bands when we pick them for the playlist, pick them for the podcast, it's hard to find a chorus because a lot of times the songs don't really have one. It's just 4 or 5 minutes of all this, that, and the other, and it just kind of weaves in and out. So to just condense what we think of a song down to 30 seconds is sometimes really difficult. But that track makes me want to go back and listen to the whole album, honestly.
It's solid, very solid.
Definitely worth checking out Bergfried, Mike's second pick of this week. Before we get to my picks, it's just about time to take another commercial break on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, you're going to be here with us during the entire break. If you're on Twitch, again, ads can go away if you want to hit the subscribe. And again, you can use your Prime to do that, and that doesn't cost you a thing. Otherwise, we won't add any more content during the 90 seconds. We'll chat a little bit, and then we'll come back with my 2 picks for this week. So we'll step aside briefly, and we'll be back with some more of the new music from October the 24th. So stick around as we get ready to run to a commercial break on Twitch. We'll chat a little bit about, both of your picks this week really felt like they took heavy influence from an era of the 80s and 90s, but did it in a way that didn't feel like they were ripping another band off or they were doing something that sounded dated in any way. And to me, like, as we go through this podcast for now 91 weeks, those are the ones that really seem to stand out, where it's something that they have somehow transformed, but has just enough of that thing that influenced them to kind of make you feel like you're back in that era.
Yeah, neither one was that band that when I heard them, I thought, I can always pick this because it's the safety pick. Like, neither one really felt that way. And sometimes, especially with some of the thrash bands or the traditional metal bands, like, they're going to be a solid pick, so you maybe shy away from picking something a little more outside of your comfort zone and just settle on one of those, which they're really good, and it's not a big deal, but there's kind of that decision you make. And with these, it was like, they aren't that. They're I like them, but they aren't the easy pick necessarily, but they're both really great albums.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely worth checking both of them out. And that kind of gets to my picks. We'll be doing it here as soon as this break is over, because with all the melodic rock that was on the playlist this week, and I didn't pick any of it, telling that there was some really good stuff outside of that to talk about. Welcome back if you're watching on Twitch. Another episode of the Hard Rock Empire rolls on with my 2 picks for this week. And as I just mentioned during the break, a lot of melodic rock this week. Frontiers had 3 album releases. We've already mentioned Ronnie Romero's. But I steered away from all of it, as it turned out, just mainly because there was a lot of it was really good, but nothing really like stood out as being amazing. So I ended up finding a couple bands that did kind of stand out. So we're going to start out with a metal quartet from New Orleans, Louisiana. This is Under Black Sky with Bad Blood, Chapter 1. It's going to be kind of a dark omen for my two picks. We have Under Black Sky, and in a moment we'll talk about Bad Rain. So it's like Ohio in November, I guess, where it's just so cloudy. These guys, Under Black Sky, formed in 2023. This is their debut album. These are guys that wear masks, so who they really are, nobody knows, but they do have identities that they go under. The vocalist is, I believe it is Crisis, spelled with a K. Guitarist is Onyx. Bassist is Jax with 2 X's. And drummer is Beast. Their website has a great description. It kind of tells you that clearly there's some pretty dark vibes they're going for with this. So I'll just read this off of their website because I'm not sure I can say things that are going to make it any more descriptive. They're not a band, but a reckoning. Their debut transmission, Bad Blood, is more than an album. It's the first chapter of an awakening. Each track unlocks another sigil in the codex. Another fragment of the truth long buried. As their presence spreads, so too does the influence of the order beneath. And it says, those who hear the message begin to change. Reality glitches, symbols surface in the dreams. Crimson keys appear. Shattered glass reveals hidden figures. A storm begins to churn within them, not of fear, but of defiance. And then they know they are not alone. The purge has begun. Under Black Sky is leading the charge. So yeah, clearly some creativity in their backstory and their look. But, you can do all that stuff. If the music isn't any good, it isn't going to make any difference. Thankfully, the album is really good. They've got a great alternative hard rock sound. There are some kind of modern rock sensibilities there, but I definitely got some like alternative vibes as well. And again, being their first album, really kind of excited to see where these guys go. But it feels like they're off to a really good start here with their first album. And any band that goes to the lengths to create a story and identities, like, I kind of want to see how it works out for them. But overall, they're off to a good start. Standout tracks include Deep Fake, Burn It Down, Drown, and the song we're going to listen to on the podcast is Pull Through. So this is Under Black Sky with their debut album, Bad Blood, Chapter 1. This is the 6th track off of this album, Pull Through. Let's listen to a little bit of that now. Yeah, like I said, overall, definitely some early 2000s sound, some alternative sound there as well, but strong vocals, good music behind it overall. I thought it was a really, really solid first album from these guys. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought that was really good, and I'm excited when a band like this pops up that I haven't already been told that I need to like love and get into and hasn't been like thrown in my face yet. I think that's encouraging because I feel like masked bands lately have kind of become a thing for better or worse. And no, kind of going back to like my two picks, I think anytime you can have a lore and a story that you're telling, that's always a good start, and this sounded really good.
Yeah, so definitely interested to see where these guys go from here. Under Black Sky, my first pick for this week. As always, I have two picks, and we have a bluesy rock metal band. I'm a sucker for good bluesy rock or metal. So these guys definitely caught my attention. These guys are from Munich, Germany, founded in 2023. This is Bad Rain with their new album, Louder Than Words. This is a band that was formed from a couple of other bands that kind of split apart. It was originally conceived as a solo project by drummer, songwriter Viet Schlimbach. And since then, he has added in musicians from many different countries. trying to find everybody's names was a bit of a challenge on their website. I would love to see them set up a page that just has picture, name underneath. But we got almost all of them. The vocalist is Zoran Misic from Croatia. Their bassist's name is Chris. He was in the band with Viet, but I couldn't find his last name. And the guitarist, Adnan Basic and Daniel Davis. So a lot of different influences being pulled together. Their goal, the things they state on their website, is trying to take the spirit of 80s rock in a modern fashion. You definitely hear the metal influences, but also the blues influences as well, which when done well, I think works really well. They even kind of mention on their website, the idea of throwing in some grunge into that as well. I hear a little bit of that in this album. This is kind of one of those taking a different era rock and putting it into modern metal, and they've done a good job of that. They kind of feel like it's metal for anyone from grunge fans to modern fans, and I think they put together an album that really comes across that way. And again, it's another group that's really just getting started. Really kind of interested to see where they go from here. But their first album, they did a really good job. So looking forward to watching them continue to grow and start to tour a little more and do some more cool things. Standout tracks include Room to Breathe, Louder Than Words, Chasing the Stun, and the track we're going to listen to on the podcast is High and Above. This is Bad Rain with their new album, their first album, Louder Than Words. This is the opening track off of this album, High and Above. Let's listen to a little bit of that now.
I'm not your bone, I'm not your pride. You keep me down with all your lies. You push me hard, you push too far. I'm walking away with all my scars. This game you play is over now. I'm done with you, I'm taking my vow. You touch your head, your final say, but won't be the one to play. Girl, you better watch your step.
You definitely heard a little more of the bluesy stuff there, and the verse is started up afterward. But it's interesting because it almost sounds like Southern metal, where it's like the guy clearly has like a Southern accent, but he's singing metal because the chorus is very powerful. But you definitely hear those bluesy undertones there. But obviously he's from Germany or from Croatia, the lead singer. So kind of not sure how that works all in there. But overall, really enjoyed this album. It was something different, and every once in a while you just have a week where you're looking for a couple things that are different. I think that's kind of what I had this week. But Mike, your thoughts on Bad Rain?
Yeah, I thought the playlist track for these guys was solid, obviously because I marked it as being such. Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you have someone kind of taking Southern rock as an influence when they're not even from the States. Like, that's our musical export to the world. Like, hey, sing like you're from Alabama. That would be awesome. But no, I mean, this sounds really good. Sounds different. I mean, the actual, like, riffs leading into the chorus were just not something you hear every day, and I think that's really cool. Yeah,
again, I felt like this was a week where really everything we picked was something that maybe wasn't the cookie cutter. It was all really good, but it was stuff that was a little bit more out there, and I think that's always good. Like I said, there's some weeks where I just want to listen to melodic rock, and I'll pick two melodic rock bands, or we'll pick two power metal bands, and we'll go to it. But this week, I think there was some really good stuff that was off the beaten path, and definitely encourage you to check it out. So that is the new music for this week, and it's time to head into the vault, where Mike and I will each give you an album that you need to check out. Mike is kind of bouncing between a couple of different vault picks. Last week we had a chance to check out one of the bands that's going to be coming to Sonic Temple, and Mike will be continuing to do that as we go forward up until May when Sonic Temple rolls around again. But he is also taking a trip around the world, which means he is being dragged to all corners of the planet, mostly obscure places where you don't know that rock would even exist. And lo and behold, 2 weeks ago, the last time you had a country-related vault pick, you picked another country to do the next time you were doing that. That next time is now. Where are you, and what do we have out of this country?
Yeah, so that last time around, picking a new country didn't quite go as well as I'd hoped. Like you mentioned, I've been to some obscure places and have been able to find, even a place like Laos, I've found a metal band. Vietnam, Uganda. Like, I've managed. Well, 2 weeks ago at my first pool, I ended up with Tanzania, which has nothing on Metal Archives at all.
Not a thing.
Following that, I selected Guinea, which also has nothing on Metal Archives at all. Third time's the charm. I ended up with Kuwait, which actually they do have some metal in Kuwait. 7 bands to be exact.
Oh man.
Yeah. One black metal band, one band just labeled as heavy metal, 4 varying death metal bands, and one listed as just progressive metal. That's the one I went with. They are from Kuwait originally, but the band's from Kuwait originally. Some of the members are not. They ended up relocating, though, to Dubai. My vault pick this week is from a band called Benevolent. It's their first and so far only full-length album from 2014. It is The Covenant.
I would have to assume if you were a Middle Eastern metal band or a band of any type and you were looking for a place for financial backing and
Dubai is
potential,
where you set up shop.
Dubai's probably a pretty good choice. So that makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
that they would have gone to Dubai. But yeah, interesting to hear about this Kuwaiti band.
Yeah, so the band was actually formed back in 2007 by 2 Lebanese brothers. Hadi Sariadine on guitars and vocals, and his brother Fadi on vocals. They are rounded out by Muhammad God on guitars, and their live lineup includes Theo on drums. Pretty early in my listen, I discovered that these guys definitely have some death metal in them as well. I would call them maybe progressive melodic death. There are some clean vocals, some growls, and long but interesting arrangements, as you would expect from a progressive band. Looking at both the Prague Archives and the No Clean Singing websites, the album was pretty well received. The reviewer on No Clean Singing even comparing them to bands like Scar Symmetry, Textures, Cynic, Chimera, and Fear Factory. I can definitely hear the Scar Symmetry comparisons in these guys. Vocally, I think the clean vocals for them sound a bit more modern metal than how I perceive Scar Symmetry to be. Just kind of a different style. They're both clean. They both sound good, but I feel like with Benevolent, that clean side sounds more like what I typically hear on our playlist week in and week out from those more modern metal bands. It's just how they sing. It is what it is. Still sounds good. The album's 11 tracks and 1 hour and 3 minutes long. If you like that kind of hybrid metal style with death, prog, some modern sounds, it's probably worth giving a listen to. Standout tracks on it include Asphyxia, The Seeker, Illusion, which that song in particular, something about the vocals just seemed extra proggy to me. So I think if that's what you're into, definitely check that one out. Also Metamorphosis and Ascension.
Yeah, one thing, and we'll talk a little bit more about this band in our last commercial timeout, which is coming up shortly, but I honestly was shocked that you were even able to find a band in Kuwait. And so to find a band that kind of has such an eclectic style, it makes you wonder, like, where the music influences come from in a place like Kuwait. And I think you said Lebanese, 2 of the members were from Lebanon. So, just it's interesting to see, like, where they get their music, because you always just assume, and again, crazy to assume in the internet age, but you just wonder, like, how they get that music in there.
Yeah, I would love to find out more about these guys. They have a Bandcamp that has both their full album and their EP on there, so they still have something that they're keeping up, it seems like. But kind of interested to see if they put out any more music in the future.
Yeah, there you go. Definitely check out Benevolent, Mike's pick from Kuwait. And I guess, do we want to go ahead and pick a country for 2 weeks from now before we take this commercial break in about 4 minutes? So.
Yeah, we could go ahead and do that. Let's pull this thing up over here.
And again, next week, Michael will be going back to another band that'll be at Sonic Temple, so make sure you stick around for that. It'll be a good chance to kind of preview some bands. But, of course, in 2 weeks, he'll be back on the road, figuratively, to head to some country, and hopefully it's not terrible, and we'll find out.
Yeah, you mentioned the Sonic Temple thing the first time around, Necrogoblicon I
Yeah.
talked about. They actually turned out to be really good, so kind of excited about where I go to next on the Sonic Temple band chart. But without further ado, here's our random country generator. Let me go ahead and click this and see what happens.
Oh, wow. Let's see if there's any bands from this country. I don't see
No.
any. So Niger is not going to be chosen. Wow, you're just hitting all the African countries. Is it under the?
I'm not sure. I don't see it under the. I
so-
don't see it under G. So,
no, the Gambia is not going to be.
I didn't know it was the Gambia.
I didn't either. It must be a new thing.
Yeah.
So let's try again. Okay.
Okay.
Now I think we're in business now.
All right. So yeah, Niger and the Gambia are probably a no-go. They have nothing on Metal Archives, but a country that I'm certain will, New Zealand.
Yes. So looking forward to a trip to New Zealand. Sure, there's some good metal acts coming out of.
646 entries, so
Should be able to find something
Absolutely.
really good next week. So, or 2 weeks from now. So make sure you come back for that. We're gonna, if you're on Twitch, we're gonna have one more break for 90 seconds. So make sure you stick around for my pick in the vault, and then of course our Power Trio question of the week. It'll be coming up on the other side of this timeout. If you're on YouTube, you'll listen to us chat a little bit more while we're waiting for the Twitch people to come back. So make sure you stick around for that.
got a horrendous disfigurement.
Is that one of the bands in New Zealand? Wow, that is
Indecipherable logo. Is that really their band, or is that just the best that Metal Archives could do?
That's a great question.
Nope, sure enough, that is their. I think that is.
Wow. Holy cow, that is actually. Well, I kind of want to know about this band now. Like, yeah, I don't think I'd be picking that one,
Worst
but
apocalypse ever.
yeah,
We
so,
Ravenholm.
yeah, go look up Indecipherable logo on Metal Archives if you want to check out what is clearly an indecipherable logo.
Extreme progressive metal / grindcore.
Okay, there you go. So, yeah, the band you listen to from Kuwait. One thing that's kind of important to note is when you're listening to that kind of music and you're hearing somebody listen to that kind of music from another room over, the only thing you can hear is the harsh vocals. You're not going to hear the clean vocals. So, like, I'm sitting in here and I'm just hearing that, and I'm just like, wow, that is tough. If that was the best choice, but good to hear that there were actually some clean vocals in there as well.
Yeah, and
so.
musically they were really good, so I can't argue.
Yeah, so yeah, New Zealand coming up in 2 weeks. Probably won't be Indecipherable logo, but if you want to go check them out, definitely do that. But otherwise, next week we'll be back to the Sonic Temple lineup, so make sure you tune in for that. Our last break is over on Twitch. Thank you so much for sticking around with us through our breaks tonight. It is time to get to my vault pick, and as I mentioned many times before, still rolling through the Frontiers Records lineup. We are on to the letter R for the second week in a row, and we're going to be checking out the self-titled debut album of an international hard rock and metal supergroup, because why wouldn't every band that's at Frontiers be known as a supergroup? This is Resurrection Kings with the album of the same name. This band features vocalist Chaz West, ex-Bonham, ex-Tribe of Gypsies lead singer, guitar player Craig Goldie of Dio and ex-Jafria, bass player Sean McNabb of Lynch Mob, ex-Dokken, ex-Quiet Riot, ex-Burning Rain, and Vinny Appice, who was with Dio, Black Sabbath, and Heaven and Hell, so the drummer. But, maybe not the biggest names in this supergroup, but overall they put together a really good product. This was released January 29, 2016. Shocked to know that it was produced by Italian multi-instrumentalist Alessandro Del Vecchio, who produces so much of the stuff I find each and every week. There was a single off this album, Who Did You Run To? It was released November 4th, 2015. These guys have only released one other album to date. That was Skygazer back in 2021. Like so many of the Frontiers acts, they're not really listed as inactive, but you also wonder whether they have other things and other groups that they'll, may possibly kind of keep their attention. But overall, it's a great sounding album if you're a fan of the throwback to the 80s and 90s style of music. A lot of talent in this group. Vocals are really good. Chaz West is really good. I've heard him on a few different things. But overall, it was really solid. No surprise here. Standout tracks include Distant Prayer, Living Out Loud, Who Did You Run To, and Path of Love. Definitely worth checking these guys out, as so much of the stuff from Frontiers is just, all really, really solid music. Next week, we're going into the letter S, and we're going to check out, or my plan is to check out the debut album from a band that we have talked about on this podcast. The band is Sunstorm. So we'll be checking those guys out to see where their sound started back when they release their first album. So that'll be coming up next week on the podcast. It is time to go to our question of the week. It is time for the Power Trio, the Hard Rock Hat Trick, and just a little explanation of where this idea came from. And there was a story around ESPN, oddly a music story on ESPN, but had to do with the band Fleetwood Mac. And, of course, one of their most famous songs, really at the point of their biggest popularity in the late 70s, was the song Tusk, which was written with the USC marching band. It was one of those things that the story kind of talks about. You know, they were in the late 70s, they were as popular as anybody. They could get whatever they wanted, so they had this crazy idea about recording a song with a marching band, because I think it was Mick Fleetwood was staying in a hotel somewhere, and there was a marching band outside of his window, and it was driving him crazy. But people were like following the marching band because it was something exciting. So they thought, well, why don't we, do a song with a marching band? Because if it's popular with the people, why not? So they called USC. Of course, USC didn't answer because they didn't think it was real. They thought they were being pranked by somebody from UCLA potentially with a big rivalry game coming up. Why would Mick Fleetwood be calling USC's music department? But they ended up obviously collaborating. They recorded the song at Dodger Stadium because you obviously can't fit all the band members in a studio.
No.
But I guess they built a studio in LA also to facilitate the band, and it ended up being a huge success. Obviously, they played the song live in concert, and then just last couple weeks ago at one of the USC home games, Mick Fleetwood was there playing with the band and playing drums. Because that's just
Why
what
not?
you do. But yeah, so that kind of made me think, well, what if you could just one of the bands that we're going to spotlight on this choice would just decide to call up a marching band instead and say, hey, well, I'm going to record this song with a marching band. So our question of the week is the top 3 songs that would be benefited or would be interesting to hear played alongside a marching band. But of course, you actually came up with a second power trio that I think we'll probably use in the future, which would be 3 songs that would make good marching band songs, because I think that's actually an interesting question as well.
Yeah, that was kind of where my head was at with this. I then pivoted to what the actual topic was. I came up with a few. I don't know if they would benefit, but I think it would be fun to hear it.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I would guess we probably didn't get anything from Shane because it was kind of last
Kind of
minute.
short notice. We did not hear from Shane.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you'd have come up with great answers.
Sure. Chris has put his answers in the chat. What does Chris come up with this week for those who cannot see the chat on YouTube?
Yeah, so Chris's responses, first off, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Nirvana, obviously. I'm sure that would work. Metallica of Wolf and Man. Great song by Metallica. A lot of Metallica, I think, would work with this. That was where I tried to stay away from, because then I started thinking of, like, the Symphony of Metallica stuff, and, like, I don't want to think of it in those terms.
Yeah.
Because, like, marching band's a little different, I guess.
Sure.
But, yeah, that's a great song and great choice. And finally, One Vision by Queen.
Okay.
I feel like Queen and marching bands go really well together either way, so you can't go wrong picking any Queen song.
No, I agree with that. So really good choices there by Chris. But yeah, what did you end up coming up with for this one?
So my first one's actually a cover song, a great cover song, and I just thought, man, it'd be really cool to hear a marching band play this, whether the band's playing with them or not. And that would be the song Hocus Pocus, the cover by Halloween.
Yes.
Cover of the song by Focus. It originally appeared on 1999's Metal Jukebox. The Focus version came from their 1971 album Focus 2. I just think that would be a tremendous marching band song.
Yeah, I would be shocked if there's not some marching band out there playing a version of that song, because
They should.
that is great. And of course, if you haven't seen the clip, obviously the Halloween version is great, and you should definitely go check that out. But if you have not seen the clip of Hocus Pocus by Focus, I think it was on the Midnight Special, I think is the one that you would see a lot from the 1970s. The whole point of that is, like, they only had so much time to play this song, so they just kept playing it faster and faster. So the song just speeds up as you go. It was already a ridiculous song to start with yodeling and flute playing, and it's just it may be one of the most amazing songs ever. I can't say it's the best because I think you have to like a certain type of music.
Yeah.
But as far as like, wow,
You have to appreciate it.
You have to appreciate. Go if you've never seen that video. Go to YouTube once we're done with this podcast. Look up "Hocus Pocus" by Focus and look for the live version from the Midnight Special, and your mind will be blown.
But yeah, that needs to happen.
I agreed.
Number 2, I was just thinking of songs that weren't typical songs with horns, but had them in there anyway. And the one I came up with I thought might be kind of cool. The marching band would be the song by Gwar, "Sadama Go-Go," from their 1994 album "This Toilet Earth." Great song, and just I feel like it could have a really cool marching band vibe added to it with kind of the full band going on. I don't know if it would improve it, but I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. But I think anytime you have a song with horns, kind of already a feature, I think it's pretty easy to work a band into that too.
Yeah, I would think so too. For number 3, kind of in honor of the anniversary of Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, give me Smashing Pumpkins' "Bullet with Butterfly Wings" with a marching band.
I'm almost certain I've heard that song played by a marching band before, so I think and 2 of my picks are going to be songs that I'm almost certain I've heard a marching band play. One, I'm definitely certain, but I think, that's a song that absolutely would make sense with a band behind it.
I think it's just waiting to become the next big sports anthem. I think if you get Billy Corgan and the guys in there with the marching band, let's make it happen.
No, I'd be all for that. So yeah, good choices, all of them. Yeah, the first 2 picks I have are songs that I'm almost certain. The first one, 100% certain that has been played by a marching band. It might have even been one of the first places I heard this song. It's Chicago's 25 or 6 to 4. Like, anything Chicago, obviously. They're already basically a band in and of themselves with all the horns and everything. So I thought that would be an easy one to choose from them. The second one, I picked "Land of Confusion" by Genesis. Like, that seems like one. It's already kind of a bombastic song anyway, and I could just hear just drums and horns and just the whole sound to it.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool as well.
The third one, I went off the board for the third one. It comes up every once in a while on my YouTube music. It's Sabaton's "The Last Stand." I feel like any music by one of these over-the-top, like, bands that are just playing this, like, war rock or I don't know I don't know what the term is for that, but
historical epic power metal.
Yeah,
I
I feel like having a band marching along with them playing this just almost seems fitting to some degree. You could choose any Sabaton song. That's just the one that comes up so often.
I want to think that they're kind of this generation's band that like 20 years from now, marching bands will be doing whole shows based on their music.
Yeah, I could see that. And that
Queen,
one,
yeah, Queen's fine. What about Sabaton?
let's play
do
some
our Sabaton show.
Sabaton. But yeah, just something different there. But yeah, again, there's a lot of music that it feels like it would fit, and it kind of goes back to the whole idea of how much musicianship there is in metal music and rock music that people don't really think about until you start putting a full band with them. Then it kind of makes sense. And you mentioned staying away from Metallica. I also stayed away from Styx for that same reason. Obviously, they did a show with the CYO in Cleveland, so it's kind of, I don't want to say cheating, but it was like I could easily pick something that they did with them. And
well, that's the interesting thing about this category is, to me, it kind of like bridges the gap between what songs you just want to hear a marching band play and what bands do you want to hear play with a symphony. Like, it's somehow like in the middle of those two.
Yeah.
So it definitely had me thinking kind of on a different wavelength. But first off, the marching band thing, if your marching band isn't doing some sort of classic rock theme show, you're doing it wrong anyway.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's your parents that's all their music.
Yeah.
Your parents are most likely our age or within plus or minus 5 years. That's the stuff they want to hear. They don't want to hear show tunes. I'm sorry. Like, you can play your show tunes like show when you go to play for state, like when you're trying to impress music people.
I just remember our local school's band doing some sort of like Native American themed show, and man, it was awful. I don't know what it was about exactly, but there was a lot of like spoken word parts to it.
One of the best shows I've ever seen was the Olympic music show. that our band did when I was a junior in high school with all the
Like
classic.
Chariots of Fire or whatever.
Yeah, and you know, Some of the Heroes and stuff like that. I can't remember the name of the one song. There was another band song that I just thought of that I remember the Little Miami Band used to play all the time. It was that Without Love, Where Would You Be Now? Like, I can't remember the name of the song because it's not Without Love. It's like
Yeah.
it's like I have to look it up because it has a different name to it, but somebody can come up with it, I'm sure, before I'll come up with it. But another classic 70s song. A lot of 70s music that,
Yeah.
again, perfect band music. So let us know what you would like to hear a marching band playing with a regular band, you know, joining in, what songs, and what band, Long Train Running. Thank you, Chris. I knew somebody would come up with it.
Nice.
That's, you know, I heard first time I ever heard that song was a Little Miami Band playing it. And I was like, what is this song? This is so catchy. And of course, their band dances around and all that. And
They're ridiculous.
ridiculous, but really talented.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, oh, it's the Doobie Brothers. So classic song. But I heard it first in marching band form. And we may have to go back and do that flip question at some point in the future as well. But go into our Discord. It's pinned in both of our chats. Let us know 3 bands, 3 songs you'd like to hear with a marching band. And then, you know, give us some more ideas for more power trio questions in the future, because we're always looking for ideas, because sometimes it's hard to come up with new ones. But let us know in the Discord. Let us know, or chat on the YouTube VOD link as well. You can do that as well to let us know what you would like to hear us answer. But with that said, that is going to wrap things up for this edition of the Hard Rock Empire. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Big thanks to Chris for joining us in the chat and helping jog my memory on that song right at the very end. Big thanks to Mike, as always, for all his hard work on this podcast. Big thanks to you for listening whenever and wherever you will listen to us. A reminder, we'll be back again next Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, another episode of the Hard Rock Empire, episode number 92. It will be the music of October 31st. It's Halloween releases. Probably won't be Halloween-themed releases, but it is releases from Halloween coming up next Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on the Hard Rock Empire. Until then, that's going to wrap things up for the entire crew. I'm Matt saying so long. Don't forget to join the Empire, the Nerdcast Empire.